I was just a delivery boy with $7 in my pocket when I walked into that mansion. The guards patted me down twice before letting me through. "You got 3 minutes," one whispered. "The Donnelly family doesn't like strangers." I nodded, clutching my delivery bag, hiding what they couldn't see, knowledge that would either get me killed or make me a legend. In the master bedroom, 12 specialists in white coats surrounded her bed. The most powerful woman in the city, dying. Her son, the new boss, grabbed my collar. "They say you can save my mother when Harvard doctors couldn't. You got one chance, boy." Before we dive into what happened next, welcome back my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I'll share another story just as gripping. Now, back to our story. The weight of his words hung in the air between us. His breath smelled like expensive whiskey and desperation. Behind him, machines beeped in rhythm with Maria Donnelly's failing heart. The doctors, the best money could buy, stood with their arms crossed, looking at me like I was nothing. And why wouldn't they? My uniform was stained with grease from the pizza shop where I worked double shifts. My shoes had holes. But sometimes, the most powerful knowledge doesn't come with degrees or credentials. This story isn't just about a delivery boy saving a mafia mother. It's about how power and wealth can blind us to simple truths. What I'm about to share with you might change how you see the world around you. Because healing, real healing, often happens when we look beyond the obvious, beyond what we're told is possible. And sometimes the person with the least power in the room holds the key that everyone else has overlooked. Let me take you back to that night. It was raining, the kind of cold November rain that seeps into your bones. I'd been delivering pizzas since noon, and my last drop was to an apartment 3 blocks from the Donnelly estate. Everyone in our city knew about the Donnellys. They owned half the waterfront, 3 construction companies, and according to rumors, most of the police force. Their mansion sat on a hill overlooking the city like a castle from another time. I was counting my tips, $7.35, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my boss, Mario. "Kid, I need you to make a special delivery," he said, his voice tight. "I'm done for the night, Mario. My bike's got a flat, and I'm soaked. This isn't a request. Address is 1420 Hillcrest Drive. They're expecting you in 20 minutes. The line went dead before I could argue. 1420 Hillcrest, the Donnelly estate. My stomach dropped. Nobody got called there unless they were in trouble or about to be. I thought about not going, about walking home and pretending my phone died, but Mario knew people who knew people. Saying no wasn't an option. I pedaled uphill in the rain, my legs burning, wondering what I'd done wrong. Had I delivered to an enemy of theirs? Had I seen something I shouldn't have? The questions multiplied with each painful push of the pedals. The gates of the estate loomed ahead, wrought iron and intimidating. A security camera swiveled toward me as I approached. I pressed the intercom with a trembling finger. "Delivery," I said, my voice cracking. The gates opened without a word. The driveway seemed endless, lined with perfectly trimmed hedges and statues that watched me with empty eyes. The mansion itself was lit up like a beacon, windows glowing amber against the night. 2 men in black suits waited at the entrance, their faces expressionless as stone. "Arms up," one commanded. I raised my hands while they patted me down, checking every pocket, even looking inside my delivery bag. It was empty except for a receipt book. "You got 3 minutes," the guard whispered. "The Donnelly family doesn't like strangers." They led me through a foyer with marble floors that reflected the crystal chandelier above. paintings in gold frames lined walls covered in silk. It was like walking through a museum, except the artifacts weren't behind glass. They were being used. A piano played somewhere distant, a sad melody that made the hair on my arms stand up. We climbed a grand staircase to the second floor, where the atmosphere changed. The luxury remained, but there was tension in the air, thick enough to touch. People moved quickly, speaking in hushed tones. A woman in a maid's uniform was crying quietly in an alcove. The guards stopped at double doors at the end of the hallway. One knocked 3 times and a voice from inside called, "Enter." The master bedroom was larger than my entire apartment. A massive 4-poster bed dominated the center, surrounded by medical equipment that beeped and hummed. The smell hit me first, antiseptic trying to mask something sour underneath. Sickness, death approaching. 12 people in white coats stood in a semicircle around the bed, their faces grim. Some held clipboards, others stared at monitors. But all of them looked defeated. And on the bed, propped up against silk pillows, lay a woman who could only be Maria Donnelly. I'd seen her picture in the newspaper, cutting ribbons at charity events, standing beside the mayor at fundraisers. But the woman before me was a shadow of that powerful figure. Her skin had a yellow tinge, stretched tight over sharp cheekbones. Her eyes were closed, dark circles beneath them like bruises. An oxygen tube ran beneath her nose, and IVs snaked from both arms. A man stepped forward from beside the bed. Vincent Donnelly, the son, the new boss since his father's mysterious heart attack last year. He wore a suit that probably cost more than I'd make in a year, but his tie was loosened, his eyes bloodshot. He grabbed my collar, pulling me close enough that I could smell the coffee and whiskey on his breath. "They say you can save my mother when Harvard doctors couldn't. You got one chance, boy." I blinked, confused. "Sir, there must be some mistake. I'm just here to deliver." "Don't play dumb with me," he hissed. Mario called. Said his delivery boy knows things. Old remedies. Said your grandmother was some kind of healer. My heart stopped. How did Mario know about my grandmother? I never talked about her at work, never mentioned the years I spent by her side, learning which plants heal and which harm, how to read the body's signals when something was wrong. One of the doctors stepped forward. An older man with silver hair and glasses perched on his nose. "Mr. Donnelly, this is absurd. We've consulted with specialists from around the world. Your mother needs a liver transplant, not folk remedies from a—" "Shut up," Vincent snapped. 12 of you. The best money can buy. And what have you done? Watched her get worse for 2 weeks. He turned back to me, his grip tightening. "So, can you help her or not?" Every instinct told me to lie, to get out of there. But something made me look at Maria again. Her breathing was shallow, her fingers slightly blue at the tips. The monitors showed numbers I recognized from my grandmother's teachings. Liver failure, yes, but something else too. Something the doctors were missing. I had a choice to make. Lie and possibly escape, or tell the truth and risk everything. $7 in my pocket. A leaky apartment waiting for me. No family left since Grandma died. What did I have to lose? "I need to look closer," I said quietly. Vincent released my collar, surprise flickering across his face. He nodded toward the bed. The doctors parted reluctantly, watching with skepticism as I approached. I set my delivery bag down and moved to Maria's bedside. Up close, the signs were clearer. The specific yellow of her skin, the slight tremor in her hands, the faint smell beneath the antiseptic. I gently lifted one of her eyelids. The white of her eye confirmed my suspicion. "When did she last eat something she prepared herself?" I asked. Vincent frowned. "What? She hasn't cooked in 20 years. We have a personal chef." And her symptoms started about 2 weeks ago, one of the doctors supplied. Fatigue first, then jaundice, then the liver values started climbing rapidly. I nodded, pieces falling into place. Has anyone tested her for amanita poisoning? The room went silent. The silver-haired doctor stepped forward again. Death cap mushrooms? That's absurd. We would have seen symptoms much sooner, and they would have been gastrointestinal first. I shook my head. Not with amanita phalloides, and not if it's been administered in small doses over time. The symptoms can be delayed, especially if someone knows what they're doing. Vincent's face darkened. Are you saying someone's been poisoning my mother? The weight of what I'd just suggested hit me. I'd just accused someone in the Donnelly household of attempted murder. If I was wrong, I wouldn't leave this room alive. If I was right, I might not leave alive either. But my grandmother had taught me to speak truth, especially when lives hung in the balance. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm saying. The room erupted, doctors arguing, security guards moving closer, Vincent barking orders. I stood still beside Maria, watching her breathe, counting the seconds between each rise and fall of her chest. Enough! Vincent's voice cut through the chaos. He pointed at the silver-haired doctor. Test her for this poison now. It will take hours to get those results back from the lab. Then start now, Vincent roared. As the doctor scrambled to draw blood, Vincent turned to me, his eyes narrowed. If you're wrong about this, I'm not, I said, with more confidence than I felt. But we don't have time to wait for test results. If it is amanita poisoning, she needs treatment immediately. What treatment? I need activated charcoal, milk thistle extract, high-dose vitamin C, and access to your kitchen. Vincent stared at me for a long moment, then nodded to one of his men. Get him whatever he needs. The next hour passed in a blur. The doctors watched with thinly veiled contempt as I prepared the treatment my grandmother had taught me. The kitchen staff hovered nervously as I examined every ingredient, every surface. The head chef, a thin man with a French accent, seemed particularly agitated. This is outrageous, he kept saying. I prepare all of Madame Donnelly's meals myself. When did you hire him? I asked Vincent quietly. About 3 months ago. Our previous chef retired after 30 years. I nodded, filing away the information. And who else has access to her food? Just Antonio, her personal server, been with the family for decades. As we worked, I explained what I knew about amanita poisoning, how the toxins attack the liver slowly, how conventional treatments often fail because they start too late, how my grandmother had saved 3 children in our village when they ate wild mushrooms from the forest. How does a delivery boy know all this? One of the younger doctors asked, curiosity overcoming her skepticism. My grandmother was a healer in the old country, I said simply. She taught me everything she knew before she died. When the mixture was ready, a bitter-smelling concoction that combined modern medicine with ancient knowledge, we returned to Maria's bedroom. Her condition had deteriorated even in that short time. The monitors showed her liver function dropping rapidly. This will help neutralize any toxins still in her system, I explained, holding up the first preparation. But we need to support her liver while it tries to heal. Vincent nodded, and I approached Maria's bedside. Gently, I lifted her head and brought the cup to her lips. Mrs. Donnelly, I said softly, I need you to drink this. It will help. Her eyes fluttered open briefly, dark eyes, intelligent despite the pain clouding them. For a moment, she seemed to look straight through me, as if seeing someone else. Then she parted her lips and allowed me to help her drink. The room held its breath. The doctors watched the monitors. Vincent paced. I held Maria's wrist, counting her pulse the way my grandmother had taught me, feeling the life force flowing beneath her skin. "Now we wait," I said. And wait we did. Hours passed. Some of the doctors left to run the tests I'd suggested. Others stayed, watching me with a mixture of doubt and curiosity. Vincent remained by his mother's side, occasionally stepping out to make phone calls in hushed, angry tones. Around dawn, the first test results came back. The silver-haired doctor's face was ashen as he handed the paper to Vincent. "Amanita-phalloides toxin," he confirmed. "High levels. I've never seen anything like it." Vincent's eyes found mine across the room, something new in them. Respect, maybe. Or calculation. "How did you know?" I shrugged. The specific color of her skin, the pattern of her symptoms. My grandmother showed me once, in an old medical book. But that wasn't the whole truth. I knew because I'd seen it before. Because my own mother had died from the same poison 5 years ago, her death ruled a tragic accident after she ate wild mushrooms. An accident I'd never believed in. As the sun rose, Maria's vital signs began to stabilize. The yellow tinge to her skin remained, but her breathing deepened, and the monitor showed improvement in her liver function. The doctors were astounded. "It shouldn't be possible," one muttered. Her liver was failing completely. But I knew what they didn't. The human body has remarkable power to heal itself if given the right support. My grandmother had taught me that modern medicine often focuses so much on fighting disease that it forgets to strengthen the body's own defenses. By midday, Maria was awake enough to take more of the remedy. Her eyes focused on me as I helped her drink, a question in them that she was too weak to ask. "Rest," I told her. "Your body is fighting hard." Vincent pulled me aside after, his voice low. "If she survives this, you'll have the gratitude of the Donnelly family. Do you understand what that means?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I wanted the gratitude or the obligation of a mafia family. "But first," he continued, "we need to find who did this." The investigation moved quickly. Vincent's men questioned everyone with access to Maria's food. Security footage was reviewed. The kitchen examined inch by inch. It was in Maria's evening tea that we found our answer. A special blend prepared only for her, kept in a locked cabinet to which only 3 people had keys: Vincent, the chef, and Antonio, her server. When confronted, the chef broke down immediately. He admitted to being paid by a rival family to slowly poison Maria. The plan was for her to die of apparent liver failure. No foul play suspected. He'd been adding small amounts of extracted amanita toxin to her tea for weeks. Vincent's face was terrifying as he listened to the confession. I didn't stay to see what happened next. Some things are better not witnessed. That night, exhausted but unable to sleep, I sat in a guest room of the Donnelly mansion. They'd insisted I stay until Maria was fully stable. The room was larger than my entire apartment, with a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud. But luxury brought no comfort as I turned the day's events over in my mind. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. A security guard stood at the door. "Mrs. Donnelly wants to see you," he said. Maria was sitting up in bed when I entered her room. The medical equipment had been reduced, though an IV still ran into her arm. Her color was better, her eyes clear and sharp. Those eyes fixed on me with unsettling intensity. "Sit," she said, her voice stronger than I expected. I perched on the edge of a chair beside her bed, suddenly nervous. This woman had built an empire through means I could only imagine. Even weakened, power radiated from her. "You saved my life," she stated. "The treatment did. I just knew what to look for." She smiled slightly. Modesty. Rare in this house. Her hand reached out surprisingly strong as it grasped mine. "You have your grandmother's eyes." I froze. "You knew my grandmother?" Elisa Moretti, of course I knew her. She was the finest healer in our village back in Sicily. The room seemed to tilt around me. My grandmother had never spoken of Sicily, had claimed to be from a small town in northern Italy, and how would Maria Donnelly know her? "I don't understand," I said. Maria's smile deepened. "No, I suppose you wouldn't. Elisa kept many secrets. Even from you, it seems." She settled back against her pillows, her eyes never leaving my face. "Your grandmother and I grew up together. Did you know that? We were like sisters once, until she chose a different path." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My quiet, gentle grandmother, friends with the matriarch of the city's most notorious crime family? It seemed impossible. "Elisa had the gift," Maria continued. "Like you do. She could see what others missed, could heal what doctors called hopeless. The old knowledge passed down through your family for generations." "How do you know all this?" "Because the Moretti family served the Donnellys for over a century. Your ancestors were our healers, our protectors against poison and disease, until your grandmother broke the tradition. Because the Moretti family served the Donnellys for over a century. Your ancestors were our healers, our protectors against poison and disease, until your grandmother broke the tradition and fled to America." I shook my head, trying to process this information. That can't be right. My grandmother was a simple herbalist. She grew vegetables and made remedies for our neighbors. Maria's laugh was soft but knowing. "Is that what she told you?" "Elisa was the most gifted healer the Donnelly family ever had. When she left, it created a void that was never filled." She paused, studying my face. "Until now, perhaps." My mind raced, connecting dots I never knew existed. The strange visitors who sometimes came to our small house late at night, speaking in hushed tones with my grandmother. The locked chest she kept under her bed, filled with books written in a language I couldn't read. The way she tensed whenever the Donnelly name appeared in the news. "Why did she leave?" I asked. Maria's eyes clouded. "Love. She fell in love with a man the family disapproved of. Your grandfather." "But my grandfather died before I was born." "Did he?" Maria raised an eyebrow. Another of Elisa's stories, perhaps. The foundation of my life was crumbling beneath me. Everything I thought I knew about my family, my history, seemed to be built on lies. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because you have a choice to make." Maria leaned forward, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "The same choice Elisa faced. To take your rightful place with the family, or to walk away." The weight of her words pressed down on me. "My rightful place?" "The Donnelly family has always protected the Morettis, provided for them, in exchange for their loyalty and their gifts." She gestured to the opulent room around us. "This could all be part of your world. No more delivering pizzas, no more struggling to pay rent. And in return, you would use your knowledge to help the family when needed." The offer hung in the air between us. Tempting, terrifying. "I need time to think," I said finally. Maria nodded. "Of course, but not too much time. Vincent is grateful now, but he is not a patient man." As I stood to leave, she caught my hand once more. "One last thing. Your mother's death. It wasn't an accident." My heart stopped. "What?" "The same poison that was used on me. Too much of a coincidence, don't you think?" I left Maria's room with my head spinning. The hallway seemed to stretch and contract as I made my way back to the guest room. My mother's death. Not an accident. The implications were staggering. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay awake, staring at the ornate ceiling, my grandmother's face floating in my mind. Had she known? Had she suspected what happened to my mother? Is that why she had intensified my training after Mom died? Drilling me on the signs of various poisons, making me memorize antidotes. Morning came with no answers, only more questions. I was summoned to breakfast with Vincent in a dining room that could have hosted 50 people. Instead, it was just the two of us at one end of a massive table. "My mother tells me you're a Moretti," he said without preamble, cutting into a steak that seemed excessive for breakfast. I nodded, pushing eggs around my plate. "Apparently. That means something in our world." He pointed his fork at me. "The Morettis and the Donnellys go back generations. Your grandmother broke that tradition." "So I've heard." Vincent studied me, his eyes calculating. "I'm offering you a place with us, a position of respect you'd want for nothing." The same offer Maria had hinted at, now made explicit. I thought about my tiny apartment, the stack of overdue bills on my counter, the broken-down bike I used for deliveries. Then I thought about my grandmother's peaceful garden, her gentle hands teaching me which plants heal and which harm. What exactly would this position entail? I asked carefully. Vincent smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "You'd be our family physician, available when needed, compensated generously. And if someone needed poisoning instead of healing..." His expression didn't change. "We all have different gifts. Yours is healing. We respect that boundary." I wasn't sure I believed him. The Donnelly reputation suggested they respected few boundaries. "I need to know what happened to my mother," I said. Vincent's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "What about her?" "She died of mushroom poisoning 5 years ago, the same poison used on your mother." He set his fork down slowly. "That's interesting. Was it your family? Revenge against my grandmother for leaving?" Vincent's laugh was sharp. "Why would we wait 30 years for revenge? And why target your mother instead of Elisa herself?" It was a fair point. "Then who?" "That," Vincent said, "is something we could help you discover. If you were part of the family. Another temptation. Answers about my mother's death. Justice, perhaps." "I need time," I said again. Vincent nodded, but his eyes hardened slightly. "Take the day. I'll expect your answer by tonight." I spent the day wandering the grounds of the Donnelly estate, trying to clear my head. The gardens were immaculate, with fountains and statues that probably cost more than I'd earn in a lifetime. It was a world away from the cramped neighborhood where I'd grown up with my grandmother after my mother died. As the sun began to set, I found myself drawn to the kitchen. It was empty now, the staff having prepared dinner and departed. I ran my fingers over the gleaming countertops, remembering how my grandmother's kitchen had always smelled of herbs and spices, how she'd taught me to identify plants by their scent alone. "Making yourself at home." I turned to find Antonio, Maria's personal server, watching me from the doorway. He was an older man, his hair more salt than pepper, his posture still military straight despite his age. "Just thinking," I said. He moved into the kitchen, his steps silent on the tile floor. "About whether to accept Vincent's offer." I raised an eyebrow. News travels fast. "In this house? Like lightning." He began wiping down an already spotless counter. "I knew your grandmother, you know." Another connection I hadn't expected. "You did?" Antonio nodded. "I was just a boy when she left, but I remember her. She used to sneak sweets to the children of the staff." His eyes grew distant with memory. "She was kind. Not everyone in the family's orbit manages that." "Did you know my mother too?" His hand stilled. Sophia? Yes. She would visit sometimes with you when you were very small, before what? Antonio glanced toward the door and then lowered his voice. Before the falling out. Between who? Your mother and Maria. He resumed his cleaning, movements more brisk now. They were close once. Sophia was being groomed to take Elisa's place as family healer. But then something happened. I don't know what. Suddenly, Sophia stopped coming around. Maria was furious. Another piece of the puzzle. My mother and Maria Donnelly, close enough to cause fury when they fell out. What could have happened between them? Antonio, I said carefully, do you think Maria could have had something to do with my mother's death? His eyes widened. That's not a question you should ask in this house. I'm asking you. He shook his head firmly. I've served the Donnelly family for 40 years. I don't speculate about such things. He moved toward the door, then paused. But I will say this. Maria Donnelly never forgives a betrayal. Never. Night fell, and with it came decision time. I was escorted to Vincent's study, a room lined with books I doubted he'd read and artifacts that belonged in museums. He sat behind a desk large enough to land a small plane, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. Have you decided? He asked without preamble. I took a deep breath. I have questions first. Vincent gestured to a chair across from him. I'm listening. If I join the family, I want access to all information about my mother's death, and resources to find who was responsible. He nodded. Reasonable. I won't use my knowledge to harm, only to heal. As I said, we respect your boundaries. And I want to know why my grandmother really left, the whole truth. Vincent swirled his drink, considering. Some of that predates me, but I'll share what I know, and give you access to those who might know more. It seemed too easy. There had to be a catch. What exactly would you expect from me? I asked. Loyalty, Vincent said simply. Availability when the family needs your skills. Discretion about what you see and hear. He leaned forward. In return, you'll have protection, financial security, and a position of respect few achieve in our world. The offer was tempting. More than tempting. An end to financial struggle. Answers about my family. A purpose for the knowledge my grandmother had passed down. But something held me back. A memory of my grandmother's face when she spoke of choices and consequences. The hardest path is often the right one, she used to say. Before I could respond, the door opened. Maria Donnelly entered, moving slowly but steadily, her recovery progressing faster than the doctors had predicted. She wore a silk robe, her hair pulled back severely, highlighting the sharp angles of her face. Has he agreed? She asked Vincent. We were just discussing terms, Vincent replied. Maria's eyes found mine. There's something you should know before you decide. Something about your mother. My heart raced. What about her? Maria moved to a chair, lowering herself carefully. Sophia was more than just a potential healer for our family. She was my goddaughter. The revelation stunned me. What? Elisa and I were like sisters, as I told you. When Sophia was born, she named me godmother. A shadow passed over Maria's face. We were close, Sophia and I. Until she discovered something she shouldn't have. What did she discover? I asked, my mouth dry. Maria and Vincent exchanged a look I couldn't interpret. Your grandfather's death wasn't what Elisa claimed, Maria said finally. He didn't die of illness before you were born. He was killed by the Donnelly family. The room seemed to tilt around me. Why? He was an undercover federal agent. Vincent said bluntly. He infiltrated our organization, gained Elisa's trust, married her. When my grandfather discovered the truth, he had him eliminated. And my grandmother knew this? Maria nodded. Eventually. It's why she fled with Sophia, why she cut ties with us. But you said my mother visited, that you were close. Years later, yes. Sophia reached out when she was in college, curious about her heritage, I suppose. We reconnected. I began teaching her some of what Elisa had refused to share about her gifts. Maria's eyes grew distant. She had remarkable talent, like you. Until she discovered the truth about her father, I guessed. Maria's expression hardened. She found letters, old reports he'd written about our family. When she confronted me, she shook her head. It didn't go well. Did you kill her? The question burst from me, direct and unfiltered. Maria's eyes widened in genuine surprise. Kill Sophia? No. Despite our falling out, she was still my goddaughter, still Elisa's daughter. Then who did? Because it wasn't an accident, we both know that. Maria and Vincent exchanged another look. We had our suspicions, Vincent said carefully. But no proof. Who? I demanded. Maria sighed. The Calabrese family, our rivals. They knew of Sophia's connection to us and of her gifts. We believed they targeted her both as a strike against us and to prevent her from eventually taking her place as our family healer. The Calabrese family. I'd heard the name in whispers, another powerful criminal organization in the city, the Donnelly's main competition. And you did nothing? I asked, anger rising. If you suspected they killed my mother, we had no proof, Vincent interrupted. And at the time, we were in a delicate truce with the Calabreses. Breaking it would have meant war. So you let her murderers walk free. Business is business, Vincent said coldly. But circumstances change. The Calabreses broke the truce last year when they moved into our territory. If you join us, finding proof of their involvement in Sophia's death could be a priority. The pieces were falling into place. The chef who poisoned Maria had admitted to being paid by a rival family. The same poison that killed my mother. It was them, I said, the Calabreses. They tried to kill Maria using the same method they used on my mother. Maria nodded. That's our thinking as well. Poetic in a twisted way. My mind was racing. If I joined the Donnellys, I could help find justice for my mother. But I'd be aligning myself with a criminal organization, betraying everything my grandmother had tried to protect me from. As if reading my thoughts, Maria leaned forward. Your grandmother made her choice based on her conscience. Now you must make yours. I stood, needing space to think. I need air. Vincent nodded. Take a walk in the gardens. We'll await your decision. The night air was cool against my face as I wandered the immaculate grounds. Stars glittered overhead, indifferent to the moral dilemma unfolding beneath them. I found a bench near a fountain and sat, listening to the water's gentle splash. What would my grandmother want me to do? She'd fled this world, kept me from it. But she'd also trained me thoroughly in the healing arts, as if knowing someday I might need them. And my mother, what would she advise? A woman I'd lost too young, whose death might finally be avenged if I made this deal with the devil. A soft footstep alerted me to someone's approach. I turned to see Antonio, Maria's server, walking toward me. Mind if I join you? He asked. I gestured to the space beside me. He sat, his posture still formal despite the casual setting. Have you decided? He asked, after a moment of silence. I'm torn, I admitted. Justice for my mother versus following my grandmother's wishes to stay away from this world. Antonio nodded thoughtfully. A difficult choice. What would you do? He smiled sadly. I'm hardly impartial. I've served the Donnelly family my entire life. And has it been worth it? His eyes grew distant. I've seen things I wish I hadn't, done things that keep me awake at night, but I've also been part of something larger than myself. There's value in that. We sat in silence for a moment, the fountain's murmur filling the space between us. There's something you should know, Antonio said finally, something that might influence your decision. I turned to him, curious. The night your mother died, he continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper, Maria was in a rage. I'd never seen her so angry. She and Vincent argued for hours behind closed doors. My blood ran cold. About what? I don't know exactly, but I heard your mother's name. Several times. He looked at me directly. The next day, we received news of Sophia's death. The implication was clear. You think Maria was involved? Antonio stood, straightening his jacket. I think there are many versions of truth in this house, and I think you should be very careful about which one you choose to believe. He walked away, leaving me with even more questions than before. Could Maria have been involved in my mother's death, despite her denials? Was she offering me a place in the family out of guilt? Or was there some other game being played that I couldn't see? As I pondered these questions, a new presence made itself known. Vincent emerged from the shadows, his face unreadable in the dim garden lighting. Making friends with the staff? He asked, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. Just getting perspective, I replied, wondering how much he'd overheard. Vincent sat beside me, uninvited. Antonio has been with us a long time, loyal to a fault, but he sometimes misinterprets things he overhears, a warning, thinly veiled. Is that so? Vincent nodded. The night he's referring to, my mother was indeed angry, but not about Sophia directly. We'd just learned the Calabreses had expanded their operation into our territory, using a new poison supplier. Convenient timing, I observed. Coincidence happens, Vincent said with a shrug. But I understand your skepticism. In our world, trust is earned, not given. He stood, straightening his expensive suit. It's getting late. Have you reached a decision? I looked up at the stars once more, seeking guidance that wouldn't come. Then I made my choice. Yes, I said. I'll join the family, but on my terms. Vincent's eyebrow raised slightly. Which are? I work exclusively as a healer. I want full access to all information about my mother's death, and I report directly to Maria, not to you. A flash of anger crossed his face, quickly controlled. Bold demands from someone in your position. Take it or leave it. Vincent studied me for a long moment, then laughed, a genuine sound of surprise and perhaps respect. You have more of your grandmother in you than I thought. Fine, your terms are accepted. We returned to the house, to Maria's private study where she waited. When Vincent relayed my conditions, she smiled, a small, satisfied expression. Wise choices, she said. You'll begin tomorrow. Antonio will show you to your permanent quarters. As I turned to leave, Maria called my name. One more thing. There's a letter for you, from your grandmother. My heart skipped. A letter? How? Elisa left it with me years ago, to be given to you if you ever found your way to us. She withdrew an envelope from her desk, yellowed with age. My name written in my grandmother's familiar script. With trembling hands, I took it. Thank you. In my new room, larger and more luxurious than anywhere I'd ever lived, I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my grandmother's letter. Her handwriting brought an ache to my chest, a physical pain of missing her. "My dearest grandson," it began. "If you are reading this, then you have found your way to the Donnelly family, despite my efforts to keep you from them. I cannot judge you for this. We all must make our own choices in life, follow our own paths." Tears blurred my vision as I continued reading. "There are truths you must know. Your grandfather was indeed a federal agent, but he was also a good man who loved me deeply. His death broke something in me that never healed. I fled with your mother, determined to break the cycle of service that had bound our family to the Donnellys for generations." I wiped my eyes, turning the page. "Your mother's return to their world was my greatest sorrow. She was drawn to the power, the knowledge they offered, but Sophia discovered truths that put her in danger. If you are with them now, you must be careful. Trust no one completely. Not even Maria, who was once like a sister to me." My grandmother's warnings sent a chill through me. "Most importantly, you must know this. The poison that likely killed your mother was not amanita. It was something far more rare, far more deadly. A toxin our family has protected the secret of for centuries. A toxin only a Moretti would know how to use." I froze, the implications staggering. If Sophia was poisoned, look to those who knew our family's secrets. Look to those who had reason to fear what she had discovered. And remember that in the Donnelly world, loyalty to family always comes first. The letter ended with words of love, of hope that I would find my own path. But my mind was stuck on the revelation. If not amanita, then what poison had killed my mother? And who among the Donnellys would have access to Moretti family secrets? Sleep eluded me that night, my grandmother's warnings echoing in my mind. By morning, I had formed a plan. If I was to navigate this new world, I needed more information, and I knew just where to start. The Donnelly mansion had an extensive library, filled with books on every subject imaginable. But what interested me was what might be hidden behind those books. My grandmother had kept her most valuable texts concealed in a false wall in our modest home. A family like the Donnellys would surely have similar secrets. I spent days exploring the mansion, learning its rhythms, gaining the trust of the staff. I began treating minor ailments among the household: a maid's migraine, a security guard's infected cut, a cook's burned hand. Word spread quickly of my skills, and with it came a measure of respect. Maria continued to recover, growing stronger each day. She summoned me often, ostensibly to check her progress, but our conversations frequently turned to the past. Stories of my grandmother as a young woman, of the old country, of traditions and knowledge passed down through generations. I listened carefully, gathering pieces of the puzzle, and I watched, especially Vincent, whose eyes followed me with calculation whenever we were in the same room, and Antonio, who seemed to know more than he was saying. It was Antonio who provided my first real clue. One evening, as he brought tea to Maria while I was checking her vital signs, he mentioned casually, "This blend reminds me of what your mother used to prepare, with that special ingredient from the greenhouse." Maria's eyes flashed a warning, but it was too late. The greenhouse. I hadn't even known there was one on the property. Later that night, I found it, a glass structure hidden behind the east wing of the mansion, accessible through a walled garden. The door was locked, but my new position had earned me a master key to most of the household. Inside, the air was warm and humid, heavy with the scent of soil and growing things. Plants of every description filled the space. Common herbs alongside rare specimens I recognized from my grandmother's teachings. But it was the locked room at the back that drew my attention. Through the glass walls, I could see plants I'd only read about in my grandmother's most secret books. Plants that could heal or kill with terrifying efficiency. Plants that shouldn't exist outside of remote jungles or mountain ranges. The door to this inner sanctum required a different key, one I didn't have. But now I knew where to look. The next morning, I approached Maria directly. I need access to the greenhouse, all of it. She looked up from her breakfast, surprise crossing her features. Why? To properly serve as family healer, I need to know what resources are available to me. Maria studied me, her dark eyes unreadable. The greenhouse has been neglected since your mother's time. She was the last to truly tend it. All the more reason I should assess what's there, what needs to be replaced or cultivated. After a long moment, she nodded. Very well. Antonio will provide you with the necessary keys. It was almost too easy, which made me suspicious. That afternoon, Antonio handed me a small silver key. "Be careful in there," he said quietly. "Some things are kept locked away for good reason." The inner room of the greenhouse was a revelation. Plants. I'd only seen in my grandmother's drawings grew in carefully controlled environments. Labels in my mother's handwriting identified each specimen, along with its properties and care instructions. But it was the cabinet at the far end that drew me like a magnet. Locked, of course. I tried the silver key, but it didn't fit. Looking for something specific? I whirled around to find Vincent watching me from the doorway, his expression neutral but his eyes sharp. "Just familiarizing myself with what's here," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. He moved into the room, his gaze sweeping over the rare plants. "My mother tells me you requested full access. Curious, given that you've only been with us a week." I take my position seriously. Vincent smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "As do we all." He approached the locked cabinet, removing a key from his pocket. "Is this what interests you?" Without waiting for my answer, he unlocked the cabinet, revealing rows of glass vials containing powders and liquids of various colors. Each was labeled in a script I recognized as my mother's. "Sophia's work," Vincent confirmed. "Extracts and compounds from the plants she cultivated. Some can heal ailments no modern medicine can touch." He picked up a vial containing a clear liquid. "Others can kill in ways that leave no trace." A chill ran down my spine. Are these what the family uses when someone needs to be eliminated? Vincent replaced the vial carefully, among other methods, but these are particularly useful when discretion is paramount. "Like with my mother?" His eyes met mine, unblinking. "Your mother died of mushroom poisoning. An accident, according to official reports. But we both know it wasn't amanita toxin, don't we?" Vincent's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. A subtle tensing. "What makes you say that?" I decided to take a risk. My grandmother's letter mentioned a toxin unique to our family, something only a Moretti would know how to use or identify. Interesting. Vincent closed the cabinet, locking it. And what else did Elisa share in this letter? A warning, to be careful who I trust. He laughed softly. Sound advice in any circumstance. He pocketed the key. "If you need access to these materials, you'll need to speak with my mother. They're quite dangerous in the wrong hands." As he turned to leave, I called after him. "Vincent, did you kill my mother?" He paused, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't read. "No, but I know who did." Before I could respond, he was gone, leaving me with more questions than answers. That night, I couldn't sleep. Vincent's words echoed in my mind. He knew who killed my mother. Was he telling the truth or playing some game I didn't understand? A soft knock at my door startled me from my thoughts. I opened it to find Maria standing there, wrapped in a silk robe, her face grave. "We need to talk," she said. "Not here." I followed her through the silent mansion to her private study. Once inside, she locked the door and activated what appeared to be a white noise machine. "Vincent tells me you've been asking questions about Sophia's death," she said without preamble. I nodded. "Wouldn't you, in my position?" "Of course." She moved to a painting on the wall, swinging it aside to reveal a safe. After entering a combination, she withdrew a folder. "What I'm about to show you never leaves this room. Do you understand?" "Yes." She placed the folder on her desk, opening it to reveal photographs and documents. These were taken the day Sophia died. The photos showed my mother's apartment, the same one I'd later inherit. Her body on the kitchen floor, her face contorted in pain. Medical reports, toxicology screens. "The official cause of death was amanita poisoning," Maria said. "But you're right, that's not what killed her." My heart raced. "What did?" Maria pointed to a notation on one of the reports. "This compound was found in her system. It's derived from a plant that grows only in a remote region of Sicily. A plant the Moretti family has cultivated for generations. The toxin my grandmother mentioned. Yes, it mimics the symptoms of amanita poisoning, but acts much faster and leaves few traces unless you know exactly what to look for." I studied the report, recognizing the chemical structure from my grandmother's teachings. Who would have access to this? That's the question, isn't it? Maria's eyes held mine. Only 3 people in this city would have known how to prepare this toxin. Your grandmother, who was too ill at the time to leave her home, your mother herself, and me. The implication hung in the air between us. "Did you kill her?" I asked directly. Maria's expression didn't change. "No, but I know who did." The same words Vincent had used. Were they protecting each other? Playing me against some unknown enemy? "Then tell me," I demanded. Maria closed the folder slowly. "Not yet. There are complications. Political considerations within the family. My mother's murder is a political consideration? In our world, yes." She returned the folder to the safe, locking it. "I brought you here tonight to tell you that I know you're searching for answers. I don't blame you, but proceed carefully. The truth about Sophia's death touches on secrets some would kill to protect." "Are you threatening me?" Maria looked genuinely surprised. "No, I'm warning you, as I would warn any Moretti under my protection." She moved closer, her voice softening. "Your family now, whether you fully accept that or not. I want to see justice for Sophia as much as you do, but the time isn't right yet." "When will it be right?" "Soon." She placed a hand on my arm. "Trust me, please." But my grandmother's warning echoed in my mind. Trust no one completely, not even Maria. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. I continued my duties as a family healer, treating everything from migraines to bullet wounds, which were more common than I'd expected. I gained access to more areas of the mansion, more family members, more information. And I watched. I listened, I learned. The Donnelly organization was vast and complex. Vincent handled the day-to-day operations, construction, shipping, waste management, all the legitimate businesses that fronted their less legal activities. Maria remained the true power, though. Nothing significant happened without her approval. Antonio, I discovered, was more than just a server. He was Maria's confidant, her eyes and ears throughout the household. The staff respected him, feared him even, and he watched me constantly. It was Antonio who approached me one evening as I worked in the greenhouse, cultivating some of the rarer specimens my mother had maintained. "You're very like her," he said, startling me. "Sophia. She had the same focus when she worked with the plants." I continued carefully trimming a delicate vine. "You knew her well? As well as anyone, perhaps." He moved closer, examining my work. "She trusted me." I set down my shears, giving him my full attention. "With what?" Antonio glanced toward the door, then lowered his voice. "She discovered something about Vincent, about his plans after the old Don, his father, died." "What plans?" "To consolidate power, eliminate rivals, including some within the family who might challenge him." Antonio's eyes held mine. Sophia found evidence. Records of payments, names, dates. She confronted him. My blood ran cold. "And then she died." Antonio nodded once, barely perceptible. "I've said too much already." As he turned to leave, I caught his arm. "If you know something about my mother's death, you need to tell me." His eyes were sad. What I know could get us both killed. He gently removed my hand. "But I'll tell you this. Look in the place where water meets stone. Sophia hid something there, something important." With that cryptic message, he left me alone among the plants my mother had tended. Water meets stone. What could it mean? A fountain? There were several on the estate grounds. The pool house? The ornamental pond in the Japanese garden? I spent days puzzling over Antonio's clue, searching every water feature on the property without success. It was maddening to be so close to answers, yet still in the dark. Then, one evening, as I was treating Maria for a persistent headache, I noticed a small stone sculpture on her bedside table. A mermaid sitting on a rock, water flowing from her cupped hands into a small basin. "That's beautiful," I commented, applying pressure to specific points on her temples. Maria smiled. "It was a gift from your mother. She had it made specially for me." Water meets stone. Could it be that simple? Later that night, I returned to Maria's room. The household was quiet, most of the family and staff asleep. I'd learned which floorboards creaked, which cameras covered which angles. The benefits of delivering pizzas at night for years. I knew how to move silently in the dark. Maria's room was empty, as I'd expected. She was attending an opera gala downtown, wouldn't return for hours. The mermaid sculpture sat innocently on the bedside table, illuminated by moonlight through the windows. I lifted it carefully, examining every inch. It was heavier than it looked, the stone cool against my fingers. Nothing seemed unusual about it until I turned it over. There, on the bottom, was a small seam barely visible to the naked eye. My heart racing, I pressed various points on the sculpture until I heard a faint click. The base separated, revealing a hollow space inside. And within that space, a small USB drive. I pocketed it quickly, reassembled the sculpture and placed it exactly as I'd found it. Then I slipped out as silently as I'd entered. In my room, I connected the drive to my laptop. It was encrypted, of course, but among my mother's possessions I'd inherited was a notebook filled with what appeared to be random numbers and letters. I'd kept it out of sentiment, never understanding its purpose until now. Using combinations from the notebook, I eventually broke through the encryption. What I found made my blood run cold. Financial records, surveillance photos, transcripts of conversations, all meticulously documented by my mother, all pointing to one conclusion. Vincent had orchestrated his own father's death, making it appear to be a heart attack, and Maria had helped him. But that wasn't all. There were records of a meeting between Vincent and representatives of the Calabrese family. a temporary alliance to eliminate certain rivals, including my mother, whose knowledge of traditional poisons made her both valuable and dangerous. The final document was a letter from my mother to my grandmother, never sent. In it, she detailed her discoveries and her fear that Vincent had learned she knew too much. "If anything happens to me," she wrote, "look to Vincent and Maria. They've killed once for power. They won't hesitate to do it again." I sat in stunned silence, the truth finally clear. Vincent hadn't just known who killed my mother. He had ordered it. And Maria, who claimed to love Sophia like a daughter, had allowed it to happen. The betrayal cut deep. I'd begun to trust them, to see myself as part of their world. Now I understood why my grandmother had fled, why she'd tried to keep me away from the Donnelly family. But what could I do with this information? Confronting them directly would likely get me killed. Going to the authorities was equally dangerous. The Donnellys owned too many cops, and the evidence wouldn't hold up in court anyway. As dawn broke, I made my decision. I would continue as if nothing had changed. I would play the loyal family healer while looking for a way to bring justice for my mother. And I would trust no one, not even Antonio, who had helped me but might still be loyal to Maria above all. Days passed. I treated ailments, studied in the greenhouse, dined with family members. I smiled at Vincent, accepted Maria's mentorship, all while carrying the knowledge of their betrayal like a stone in my chest. Then came the night that changed everything. I was summoned urgently to Maria's room. She had collapsed during dinner, her symptoms alarmingly similar to her previous poisoning. Vincent was there, his face tight with worry or perhaps guilt. "Help her," he demanded, as I examined Maria's trembling form. Her skin had the same yellow tinge, her breathing labored. But something was different this time. The progression was too fast, the symptoms too severe. "What did she eat?" I asked, already preparing the treatments that had saved her before. "The same as everyone," Vincent said. "We all shared the same dishes." I worked quickly, administering the antidote I'd prepared for Amanita poisoning. But Maria's condition continued to deteriorate. "It's not working," Vincent said, panic edging into his voice. And suddenly I understood. It wasn't Amanita this time. It was the Moretti toxin, the same one used to kill my mother, the one only 3 people knew how to prepare: my grandmother, now dead, my mother, also dead, and me. Vincent's eyes met mine, realization dawning. "You did this." "No," I said firmly, "but I know what it is." I turned to Antonio, who hovered nearby. "I need access to the cabinet in the greenhouse, now." Minutes later, I was searching through my mother's collection of extracts and antidotes. The toxin was rare, but my mother had been thorough. If there was an antidote, it would be here. I found it in a small vial, labeled only with a symbol I recognized from my grandmother's teachings: a curved line intersecting a circle, the universal antidote, she had called it. Effective against most plant-based poisons, including our family's most deadly creation. Back in Maria's room, I administered the antidote directly into her IV. Vincent watched with suspicious eyes, his hand never far from the gun I knew he carried. "If she dies," he said quietly, "so do you." I met his gaze steadily. "I know you killed my mother." His expression didn't change. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "I found her records. The USB drive. I know about your deal with the Calabreses. I know you ordered her death because she discovered you killed your father." For a moment, I thought he might draw his gun and end me there. Instead, he laughed, a cold, empty sound. "Sophia always was too clever for her own good," he said. "Yes, I made a temporary arrangement with the Calabreses. Business is business. But I didn't kill your mother. The evidence is incomplete." His eyes flicked to Maria's unconscious form. "Ask her when she wakes up, if she wakes up." Hours passed. I monitored Maria's vital signs, administered additional doses of the antidote. Slowly, her condition stabilized. By dawn, her breathing had eased, and the yellow tinge was fading from her skin. Vincent had remained throughout the night, watching me work, saying nothing more about my accusations. As the sun rose, Maria's eyes fluttered open. "What happened?" she asked, her voice weak. "You were poisoned," I said, "with the Moretti toxin." Her eyes widened slightly, then moved to Vincent. Some unspoken communication passed between them. "Leave us," she told Vincent. "I need to speak with him alone." Vincent hesitated, then nodded. "I'll be right outside." When the door closed behind him, Maria struggled to sit up. I helped her, adjusting pillows behind her back. "You saved my life. Again," she said. "I want the truth," I replied, "about my mother." Maria sighed, suddenly looking every one of her years. "I suspected you'd found something. You've been different these past days, more guarded. I know about the deal with the Calabreses. I know Vincent ordered my mother's death." She shook her head slowly. "No, Vincent didn't order Sophia's death, I did." The admission hit me like a physical blow. "Why? She was your goddaughter. You claimed to love her." "I did love her, more than you can understand." Maria's eyes filled with tears, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her. But she was going to expose Vincent's role in his father's death. It would have destroyed everything we'd built. "So you had her killed." "I gave the order. Vincent arranged it through the Calabreses to maintain deniability." She reached for my hand, which I pulled away. "You have to understand, in our world, family comes first. Always. Vincent is my son. I would sacrifice anyone to protect him. Even someone you loved. Especially someone I loved." Her gaze was steady despite her tears. That's the burden of power, making impossible choices. I stood, needing distance from this woman who could justify murdering her own goddaughter. "And now? Will you sacrifice me too? I know the truth." Maria studied me for a long moment. "No, you're a Moretti, the last of your line, and you've saved my life twice now." She gestured to the IV in her arm. "Who did this? Who poisoned me?" "I don't know, but they used the same toxin that killed my mother. Someone with access to Moretti knowledge." Her eyes narrowed. "There's only one person that could be." Before she could elaborate, the door burst open. Vincent entered, his face grim. "Antonio's gone. His room is empty. Looks like he left in a hurry." Maria's expression hardened. "Find him, now." As Vincent left to organize the search, I turned back to Maria. "Antonio? Why would he poison you?" "Because he loved Sophia," she said simply. "They were involved for years. I suspected he knew about her evidence against Vincent, but I never thought he'd wait this long for revenge." The pieces fell into place. Antonio's help in finding the USB drive, his cryptic warnings, his knowledge of my mother's work. He used me, I realized, guided me to the evidence knowing I'd confront you. And while everyone was focused on that conflict, he could strike, Maria finished. Clever, patient. I underestimated him. The manhunt for Antonio lasted days. The Donnelly organization mobilized every resource, every connection. But he had vanished completely, likely with new identity papers and enough money to disappear forever. In the aftermath, an uneasy truth settled between Maria, Vincent, and me. They had confessed to orchestrating my mother's murder. I had evidence that could destroy them, yet I had also saved Maria's life. Twice. We were bound together by blood, by secrets, by a twisted sense of obligation. What happens now? I asked Maria one evening as she recovered in the garden watching the sunset. That depends on you, she said. You could take what you know to the authorities. It wouldn't stick. We have too many judges in our pocket, but it would cause problems. Or you could accept that justice sometimes takes forms we don't expect. She nodded toward the mansion. Antonio loved your mother. He avenged her by nearly killing me. Perhaps that's enough. It's not, I said firmly. But neither is destroying the entire Donnelly family. Too many innocent people would be hurt in the crossfire. Maria smiled slightly. So, what do you propose? I had thought long and hard about this moment. I'll stay, continue as family healer. In exchange, the Donnelly family will establish a foundation in my mother's name. Medical clinics in underserved neighborhoods, research into plant-based medicines, millions of dollars doing good in her memory. And Vincent and I go unpunished? You'll live with what you've done, and you'll know that I know. That seems like punishment enough. Maria studied me, respect in her eyes. You are very much like your grandmother, practical, compassionate, but with steel underneath. She extended her hand. We have a deal. I took her hand, sealing a pact I never could have imagined when I first entered the Donnelly mansion with $7 in my pocket. In the years that followed, I walked a careful line. I healed the sick, researched forgotten remedies, expanded the greenhouse my mother had loved. The Sophia Moretti Foundation became known for its groundbreaking work combining traditional knowledge with modern medicine. Vincent and I maintained a cold peace, professional but never warm. Maria treated me with a respect that bordered on reverence, perhaps seeing in me echoes of the friendship she had lost with my grandmother. And sometimes, late at night in the greenhouse, surrounded by plants my mother and grandmother had cultivated, I would think about choices and consequences, about justice and compromise, about the path that had led me here and the path that stretched ahead. I was no longer just a delivery boy, I was a Moretti, the last of my line, keeper of ancient knowledge, healer to a family of killers. It wasn't the life my grandmother had wanted for me. Perhaps not even the life I had wanted for myself. But it was a life with purpose, a life where I could do good, even surrounded by darkness, a life where my mother's death had meaning, her memory honored through healing rather than more bloodshed. Sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't found in laboratories or hospitals, but in the wisdom passed down through generations. What saved Maria Donnelly wasn't just an antidote. It was courage to trust what I knew when everyone else had given up. We all carry knowledge within us that the world might dismiss, until the moment when that knowledge becomes priceless. Remember this, you don't need wealth or status to change lives. Sometimes you just need to speak up when others have fallen silent. Your voice, your knowledge, your instincts might be exactly what someone needs when all hope seems lost. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. There are more stories where healing and redemption appear in the most unexpected places, and I want to share them all with you. Until next time, trust the wisdom you carry. It might save a life someday, maybe even your own.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.